We decided to bring the name back, for one reason. Our fans were dying to have the name back. We heard the loud cries from our community that said, hey, we love the Hornets brand. It belongs in Charlotte. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the fabric of Charlotte. And whatever it takes, we want you guys to get the name back.
It was a happenstance that made it possible. We knew that the, quote, Bobcats brand was not as strong as the Hornets brand in Charlotte. And we also knew that the ownership of the New Orleans Hornets would be happy to have a more indigenous brand to New Orleans, which happened to be the Pelicans. So it all worked out.
I thought Michael and Fred went about it the right way. They did the market research that was necessary. They made sure to talk to all the constituents. And frankly, they talked to New Orleans, which at the time had the Hornets name. But they put together a plan to bring that Hornets name back to North Carolina. I think we always felt that's where it belonged, attached to the Charlotte franchise. And I know it was very much welcomed by the fans and their business partners in North Carolina.
And I'm pleased to announce that the Board of Governors has unanimously approved the Charlotte Bobcats application to change their name to the Charlotte Hornets, effective following the 2013-14 season.
Whether you want to credit General Cornwallis or the British Army with giving us that name and keeping it, or the NBA team or the baseball team, there's clearly a connection that this market in town specifically feels towards that name.
When we launched it, to have an 80+ percentile approval rate on anything is almost unheard of. But it just showed, just how deeply rooted the Hornets name was in this community, how much it was loved by so many people that had chosen not to come and support us as the Bobcats, but were ready to jump on board and support us and help us be successful as the Hornets.
Charlotte, we're back.
I still have people come up to me and say, we're back. That was a fun night. That was a real fun night getting ready for that.
I mean, you saw the energy of the city, and that just lets you know how powerful and how impactful that teal and purple was and still is. And so for me to be part of it and to be here in 30 years in the making, it's a blessing.
I knew that the fan base would be on board and jump all over being able to call this team the Hornets again. It was a no-brainer for the front office to get that back and put the name back where it belongs, right here in Charlotte.
I never really realized how important that would become to this franchise, how important it was to get the name back. I just thought, hey, this is a basketball crazy community, and certainly it'll welcome anybody that comes back here.
I was thrilled when the Hornets name came back. I had been down in Charlotte several times for Bobcats games, and I think once Bob Johnson was no longer the owner of the team, several fans in the market had reached out to Michael and his group, to Fred Whitfield, and of course the league office, and were in favor of returning the Hornets name.
The strategically great thinking that occurred on the part of the current ownership to say, hey, let's see if we can revive the Hornets. I think that's made a big difference in how people feel about this team, and will continue to make a difference.
Now they're starting to get back to establishing themselves as the Charlotte Hornets. It's like when you lose your name, you lose your identity. When you lose your identity, you lose your history, right? When you lose your history, you don't know who you are and where you can go and how to, reground yourself. And so it takes time. And I think now people are starting to, recognize the Charlotte Hornets again, and I think the Charlotte Hornets is starting to, look and feel like the organization and the franchise that it was.
I think it's fantastic. I'm asked, a couple of my younger kids, Dad, who drafted you? Charlotte. Well, but then they moved and went and they were New Orleans and blah, blah, blah. So now it's much easier for me to say, hey, it's just Charlotte. And so I think having the name back and the colors back and all the history and the records back, it's a real comfort to people around here, and as it should be, it's a comfort to me.
But that one thing that was missing, it was that purple and that teal. And bringing that back, even though it We lost it in New Orleans for a couple years, you know, but bringing that back was extremely important, you know, because I felt like that's what Charlotte Hornets basketball was about. You know, it was about those colors. You know, it was about that Hornet. It was about that mascot. You know, and that's what the rich history of the franchise. When you think about the history that we created, you know, as that young team, being a part of that team, that's what people remember Hornets basketball as. You know, so bringing that back was extremely important.
When they went back, it was great, you know, because I knew the fans deserved it, and I knew the fans never wanted their team to leave.
But when it came back, I was like, yes. I mean, that's how it should be. You know, you understand sometimes things happen, but very fortunate that it came back to the Charlotte Hornets, because now we can get back on track and everybody can get that same feel-good feeling again.
Not growing up here as a kid, I didn't really understand the value of, hey, this was the original sports team in Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets.
The fan base knew them as the Charlotte Hornets. That's what they wanted. That's what the fan base wanted. The Bobcats were someone else's team.
I think it goes together. Charlotte Hornets just goes together. I don't think I really love Charlotte Bobcats.
No disrespect to the Bobcats era, it just was never the same as when it was the Charlotte Hornets at the height of their success and then coming back to what it is now.
When that old colors came back and the old people and they started reaching out, yeah, I thought it was great for the fan base, because that's what they knew. That's what they took ownership of when the Hornets were first there.
Bringing back the tradition, the alumni, and, you know, being able to, you know, tap into, you know, the community and to give them the part of who the Hornets are.
I think seeing and hearing stories and, you know, hearing fans tell, you know, hey, growing up, you know, my mom and my dad would take me to games, to the Coliseum and see the Hornets. It just made sense. And I think to take a name away, and I think you never thought the name would come back, because who would ever think that New Orleans would let go of the Hornets name and it would be available? So things just kind of snowballed, and when it happened, I understood why, and it was the right decision.
You know, the first night that the team came back and they beat Milwaukee in that crazy comeback game and Kemba hit big shots, there was almost a magic back in the building, and that can't just be because of a name, but there was just a sense that we're back again.
Probably could be no better way to reintroduce the Hornets to Charlotte than that particular game. Although nobody likes to fall into a 24-point hole, you're wondering how you're going to come out of it. No better way to cap it than the master of it all winning it with a game winner.
Kemba's got it back. 2-1. Hornets lead! With the shot clock on his back, Kemba Walker